Alright, howdy folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Hell Let Loose. Today we're going to talk about the newly announced British faction, its equipment, as well as the newly announced second map that the British will be fighting on. It's called Driel and is set in the Netherlands during Operation Market Garden. I recently made a video on the future of Hell Let Loose and what to expect from the developers going forward, and I'd highly suggest you check out that video as the plans for Hell Let Loose's future are quite honestly insane, with 2 new factions later this year, as well as their 1 year of World War II per year idea, where 2023 is the year of 1939, 2024 is the year of 1940, etc. However, this British update is not part of that, as this was partially made by the old developers and now also partially made by the new developers, also something I touched on in a video, and you can find it linked down in the description. Before we get into the maps and the British forces, I just want to touch on this one answer from their roadmap question and answer segment found in developer briefing 185. The question is, will content be separated based on the year of the map? The developers state here that they want to ensure they are keeping the player experience historically accurate while covering 1 year of the war for each real-life year passing. They are working on ways to make loadouts, vehicles, and even cosmetics only applicable to specific maps. I'm not sure if this means the STG-44 and IS-2, to name just 2 offenders, will be removed from the Stalingrad map too, or if this is just for their new upcoming content. A few people have already mentioned that the Cromwell medium tank shouldn't be in North Africa, as they only first saw service during Operation Overlord in 1944. Whether the developers decide to add more era-appropriate tanks for North Africa, like the Matilda or the Crusader, we'll have to see. But again, the question is more if this newfound love for historical accuracy will also be applied to already existing maps. Now, the British will launch into Hell Let Loose with 2 dedicated maps. The first one is El Alamein, which means Hell Let Loose now has a North African theater, and I would be very surprised if there'll only be 1 map in the North African theater going forward. The second one, Driel, takes place in the Netherlands in 1944. More specifically, Driel is a small town just next to Arnhem. It looks like Driel might be a tough battle with a wide open river and not a lot of cover near the river. I'm not sure about the objective placement, with the brick factory and gun emplacement objectives both being on the south shore, perhaps giving the southern spawn a little bit of an advantage. The fact Driel is a bridge map might be a huge turnoff for some people. I personally, however, loved the Arnhem map in Postscriptum, which included a massive fight for the bridge from basically the get-go, and I'm carefully excited to see the Driel map. Of course, it's also always awesome to see the battle for the Netherlands being represented in more games, and I also wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing more battles set in the Netherlands in Hell Let Loose down the line. The El Alamein map looks like it's going to have a bunch of sandy hills as well as trenches and a massive airfield and runway to fight over. I can't wait to jump into the Hell Let Loose version of El Alamein and sort of try to compare it to the Battlefield 1942 version from way back in the day. Now, let's talk about the British weapons and vehicles you can expect to see. Some of these shouldn't be a surprise, but still, let's talk about them. First up is the Lanchester Mark I submachine gun. The British, soon after the evacuation at Dunkirk in 1940, realized that they needed something to be able to compete with the Germans in close-quarter infantry battles. Some German-made MP-28s, which were captured in Ethiopia, were reverse-engineered, and thus the Lanchester was born. This will likely be the first submachine gun the British faction will be able to use, with the more famous Sten gun being available to the British faction as an upgrade after leveling up certain classes, I assume. Interesting is that there is so far no mention of a 20, 30 or even 50 round drum mag Thompson for the British, something they definitely used in North Africa. Perhaps this is something that we'll see down the line. The famous Bren Mark II light machine gun is joined by the Lewis gun as the British faction's machine guns. Presumably the Lewis gun will be the upgrade you get after leveling up the machine gunner class with the Bren, though I guess it could easily also be the other way around. Perhaps one day we'll also see a Vickers K machine gun as well. The British will have access to 2 different rifles, the first being the Pattern 1914, which served as a second line and sniper rifle. Perhaps the British rifle-equipped roles will have to grind to the Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I, with the Pattern 1914 being the starter rifle, or the pattern 1940 will be for the sniper, while the regular rifle equipped classes will all have the regular Enfield. The British anti-tank class will have access to the PIAT, or Projector Infantry Anti-Tank, which allows for shots to be fired at enemy vehicles with more of an arc. Historically speaking, it can even be used as a very simple, crude, makeshift mortar, so perhaps that's something to try out in Hell Let Loose down the line. Moving on to the vehicles that are announced thus far, the Sherman 76mm Firefly with its famous 17-pounder anti-tank gun should be a very interesting addition to the game, especially in the firepower department. Now, we already quickly touched on it, but the Cromwell will be available to the British, which appears to be shown in North Africa in this picture. Perhaps down the line we'll see a more era-accurate tank like a Matilda or Crusader or Valentine, but for now the Cromwell is the tank for the job. Furthermore, the Tetrarch and Daimler light vehicles will also make an appearance, the Tetrarch being a light tank and the Daimler being a fast-wheeled vehicle. The Daimler can be used to great effect in Postscriptum, and I look forward to seeing what it can do in Hell Let Loose. Now, there are two pictures of British soldiers from the new faction, though they are definitely not dressed for combat in North Africa. I'm hoping that a khaki drill uniform will be available too, and of course this also goes for the German opponents on El Alamein. A lot of potential for interesting cosmetics for sure. A map overhaul vote was also done over the week, which should be over by now, and the winner of this vote would get a total rework, new lighting, cover, accessible buildings, as well as the potential for entire capture points to be placed differently. I myself voted for Purple Heart Lane, which actually ended up winning by a massive landslide. I actually think the map itself has a great aesthetic, but an overhaul will be a great way to make the map feel less punishing. But that's the end of this brief and of my video for now. I can't wait to finally play with the new faction, though I will most likely not actually be home for the first week of the British release, which is set for May 25th. I want to get my hands on some British gameplay ASAP and get it up on the channel. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the upcoming content, and I'll catch you in the next one.